Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host, Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. The NCAA Tournament is right around the corner. I cannot believe that college basketball is already about 75% out of the way. Time flies, but the bubble is very weak this year. And with that being said, Indiana still has a chance to make the NCAA tournament, despite the fact that Mike Woodson is on the way out. And a lot of Hoosier fans are happy about Mike Woodson basically resigning. A lot of people assume that he got fired. That's basically the way I see it, but he is resigning to retain dignity. And plus, because Indiana doesn't want to technically fire a legend. But even though Indiana is having such an underperforming year, a team that was picked to finish first in the Big Ten this season, and they're 12th right now in the league, 15-11 overall, Indiana can still make the NCAA tournament. But is Purdue a must-win for Indiana to make the NCAA tournament? Do they have to win this game? I'm going to go over this and more as we discuss Indiana's NCAA tournament outlook and whether I believe they will make the NCAA tournament or not, and if they have to beat Purdue. Now, the short answer to this question, is Purdue a must-win for Indiana? Technically not, because the bubble is so weak this year. It is absolutely so weak that you have 14 of the 16 SEC teams still in contention for the tournament. Teams like North Carolina that have only won one quad one game, SMU, who hasn't even won a quad one game, are still alive for the NCAA tournament. Ohio State's in the tournament field despite being 15-12. It is absolutely crazy how weak the NCAA tournament bubble is. But when you look at Indiana's schedule, and when you look at Indiana's resume, they have 3 quad one wins right now, at Michigan State, at Ohio State, and at Penn State. Those 3 wins are keeping Indiana afloat right now, plus the fact that Indiana does not have a loss outside of quad one. All 11 of their losses are in quad one. They are undefeated in the other quad. So that's why Indiana is still hanging around the bubble. But you see that their next team that they have to play is Purdue at home. But this is the rest of their schedule right here. They have Penn State up next at home, then at Washington, at Oregon, and then Ohio State at home. So theoretically, if Indiana loses to Purdue and falls to 15-12, if they win out, if they win those other 4 games and finish the year 19-12 and 10-10 in the Big Ten, Indiana probably gets into the NCAA tournament. That's why technically this Purdue game is not a must-win for Indiana. But why I think it is a must-win is because if Indiana doesn't beat Purdue, I don't see them winning those other 4 games. I don't see Indiana bouncing back after another tough loss at home. They've already suffered tough losses at home to Maryland, a game they should have won, a game that definitely probably ended Mike Woods' tenure for good. Even though the Louisville game at the beginning of the season, I really think ended Mike Woods' tenure at Indiana. He wasn't recovering from that. The way he handled that in-game execution at Maryland was also a horrific look and definitely contributed to him being on the way out. The close loss to Michigan, the close loss to UCLA at home, and even the close loss at Purdue. All of these games are why Indiana is in the situation that they are in. And I think another loss to Purdue, especially a heartbreaking close loss defeat to the Boilermakers for the second time this season, makes me believe that Indiana maybe wouldn't throw in the towel, but that they're going to be so beat down and just upset and irritated with how the season has gone that they probably at best would only go 2-2 the rest of the way and in the season 17-14, probably in my opinion with wins over Penn State and maybe Washington on the road or Ohio State at home. Those would be the only 2 wins that I could probably see, and Indiana would fall short of the NCAA tournament. So that's what makes the Purdue game, in my opinion, a must-win, despite the fact that in theory losing to Purdue would keep Indiana still alive for the NCAA tournament as long as they win out. I just don't see them winning out. When you look at the bracket matrix, Indiana is only in one of the projected, I think, 108 brackets right now. So only one person has Indiana in the field. As you can see, teams like North Carolina really struggling. You also see those SEC teams starting to fall. Georgia's now on the outside looking in. You also have Arkansas, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, all hanging on for dear life. If Indiana beats Purdue, then I think that they would end up passing some of those teams as those teams keep losing. You look at some of these SEC bubble teams' schedule, they're just going to keep on losing, in my opinion. Georgia, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, they got so many tough opponents in the SEC. The entire SEC is good. Even LSU, who's way on the outside of the bubble at the 15th SEC team, can knock off good opponents. South Carolina hasn't won an SEC game, but they've been very competitive. So the SEC is just stacked. It is unbelievable. almost feel like with all this realignment, it has made the bubble the way that it is. Or with the Big Ten and SEC being so stacked, you have all these great teams. Somebody has to lose. Kind of like the Big 12 that year when Oklahoma had a below 500 record, and a lot of people said they should have made the NCAA tournament because of actually how good they were, but the amount of great opponents they had to play in the Big 12. Somebody's got to lose the games. But by default, those teams are going to start sliding down. So if a team like Indiana beats Purdue, I think that's going to help supplant teams like Georgia and Arkansas, North Carolina as well. If they can win out the rest of the season and knock off the Duke Blue Devils in the final game of the regular season, then I think that North Carolina could play their way back into the field. That's a whole other discussion for a whole other video. I probably will make a video talking about North Carolina and Hubert Davis's job security sometime down the road. But yes, Indiana is still on the fringes of the bubble. When you look at bracketologists around social media, Indiana's kind of hovering around anywhere from the first four out right there. Indiana's the fourth team out of the tournament field. Other people have Indiana in the next four out as like the sixth or seventh team out of the field. So it's definitely kind of a mix. I've also seen Indiana in CBS's bracketology at the second team out of the field. Joe Lenardi has them like the seventh team out. Other people have them further down. So people are conflicted on Indiana because their resume metrics aren't that great. Their net ranking's pretty low. But when you look at their quad one wins being at 3, and some of these other bubble teams only have 1 or 0 in the case of SMU, and the fact Indiana still has good opponents left on their schedule, there is the potential for Indiana to play their way back into the field. And with all this being said, this is not going to save Woody's job. If Indiana makes the tournament, Mike Woods is not being retained. You don't have to worry about it. I know some Indiana fans are like, I just want Woody gone. I don't want them to win. I don't want anything good to happen to Woody. Keep on rooting for the Hoosiers the rest of the way. I still want Indiana to make the NCAA tournament. If Mike Woodson's job we knew wasn't gone, I would be a little bit facetious with it and be like, yeah, it probably would be good for IU to lose some games so we can get an actually good head coach. And that's a whole other discussion for another video as well. I'm probably going to do a video talking about Indiana basketball's coaching search coming up. But Indiana basketball still on the fringe of the bubble. And the long-winded answer to this question is no, Purdue technically is not a must-win. Indiana can still win out the rest of the way. But I do think Indiana has to beat Purdue to get into the tournament because I think that another tough loss to a good team is going to morally break this team, and Indiana is going to end up falling short. And they'll probably decline an NIT bid as well. Indiana did decline the NIT last year, so it wouldn't surprise me to do it again. And I don't think Mike Woods is going to want to keep coaching after the debacle of this season, but we'll see. But this Purdue game is going to be big. Show up, show out, be loud and proud at Assembly Hall with a sellout crowd. Anything's possible. Yes, Indiana's lost a lot of close games at home this year, but maybe finally they can get a big win over their arch rival and save their NCAA tournament chances this year. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about this upcoming Purdue game and whether you think it is a must-win for Indiana or whether you think that the Hoosiers can still find a way to make the tournament without a win over Purdue. And whether you want Indiana to beat Purdue, are you one of those Indiana fans that want Indiana just lose the rest of the way out, or whether you want them to find a way to squeak into the NCAA tournament, even though they'll probably lose in the first round. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.